Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. No traffic. Everything was smooth.
No traffic at all. Everything's great.
That's what I thought. I prayed on it so that you would have that. All right, let's start the show. All right, so you have quite the ensemble cast, but I'm going to go ahead and call you the lead actor in Root of All Evil, this wonderful, fun little short film. Tell us in your words what this film is about. What's the premise?
So essentially, what it is about is a group of friends who are gathering for a Halloween celebration, one of whom has a little tree that she refers to as the Halloween tree. I'm the person that plays the owner of the Halloween tree. And I demand that my friends all respect the tree as part of Halloween tradition, and havoc ensues. They essentially disrespect the tree, and the tree decides time to kill all of the people.
It's not lost on me that your character is dressed as a witch for the occasion
Yes.
of Halloween. Because at first when it opened, I'm like, are these all absurdist characters, or is this actually a Halloween party? And you have a very deadpan performance in this, where every time somebody like just is trying to joke around, they're not respect your wishes. You're like, no, this is you are
Yeah,
going to, yeah.
I don't know why these people are friends with me, to be honest.
That's a good question, but you do promise them all the candy and all the booze that
Yes.
they could ever want. So that's a good reason to keep a friend around. I think especially if they're well, I mean, at least in real life as actors, you always want to go where the free bar is. That's a given.
Oh, definitely.
How did you get involved in this project? Had you worked with anyone from the team in the past?
All of them. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Alex is a very good friend of mine. I've done
That's the director,
yes,
correct?
Alex
Yes.
is the director.
Mhm.
He wrote it, he scored it. Very good friend of mine. I've done other films with him before, other short films. He's produced on other friends' films. So, for example, Jordan Pacheco, who plays the pirate, he is also one of my very good friends. I met Alex through him, actually. Um, I have been acting for Jordan since he did his very first short film while I was in college. So all of these connections and friendships sort of stemmed from that. I just auditioned for something Jordan needed an actress for, and everything sort of clicked from there. Made friends with Alex, who works with Jordan very frequently. So we're just sort of this group that we all take from each other when we need it. Um, I've acted with AC and Allie before. Jamie Defoe, who plays Allie's boyfriend in it, is one of my very, very good friends. And I'm actually hoping I'm going to do some work with him soon in the future, as well as Alex again. Me and Alex are actually talking about this recently, that as soon as the pandemic sort of calms down, we're going to start up
I
with
got
sports again.
I got a few of those projects that I'm just like, please stop going outside or wear a mask so I can get back to making movies selfishly.
I know.
Now, this was done as part of a 48-hour film challenge.
Yes, this was technically a 72-hour, I believe. It was
Okay.
a Rhode Island one, and it was also horror themed.
Okay. No less intimidating. I've said a few times on this show, and I tell all my friends, like, I've done some ambitious things. We shot a feature a couple of years ago in a true single take, no edits, like all of this wild stuff. I would never do a four. No, I'll never say never. I would like not enjoy or I have no desire to do a 48-hour film. That amount of pressure seems staggering to
So
come
much.
to finish anything, let alone finish something that's right. Because if I had not read it in the description, I wouldn't know that this was a 48-hour film. It's very well produced. You can't see any of the sort of edges you might have had to trim or cheat to get to the finish line, or for 72 hours. What's the pressure as an actor like on something when because I'm sure the crew is running around like mad just trying to finish things, and I know that whenever the crew there's tension or there's a deadline, it definitely is a different environment for actors. So walk me through that experience of making this.
So There's a couple things. So the biggest pressure that comes to mind, of course, immediately is memorization. You have very little time to memorize, and things get reworked constantly because it's very quick. And obviously, with a normal short or feature, you've had weeks, months, whatever to go through, figure out what doesn't work, what does work, just in pre-pro. So you have to kind of do all of that at once. So being an actor, that's number one. Number two is focus. A lot of times, especially with this group of people, we're all friends. It's very easy for us to get distracted and, want to catch up and whatnot. And you don't have time. So Alex is really, really great at keeping everyone focused in the nicest way possible, which is, believe me, no small feat with this group of people. We all want to laugh all the time. And Alex is like, okay, guys, come on, we have a time limit. He's amazing. I will work with Alex anytime he asks me to, 100%.
I'm not unfamiliar with having to be the person to yell, will you shut the up on set when things need to get done. So yeah.
Oh yeah. And I actually did my own 48. I wrote, directed, with Jordan Pacheco, who plays the pirate, recently. And yeah, I had so much respect for Alex after being on the crew side of things, because I just don't know how he kept that set so organized. It was so great. And just the multitasking of people, like Jordan does special effects as well. So he did the scene with the fingernail and all
the practical effect. That's one of the things I was like, if you're going to make a 72-hour, film project, don't have practical effects.
But Jordan's a wizard. Jordan,
amazing.
He gets stuff done so quickly. He's very brilliant with that. He's amazing at that. But Alex, I think that was the best thing, is Alex knew everyone's strengths and he knew who could occupy two roles. That's a key part of 48, 72s, having people that can do multiple things.
The good old multi-hyphenate.
Yeah. Like if people can act but also do crew things as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely critical. But yeah, focus.
I'm married to an actress who sometimes produces with me, and then also has done everything from scrubbing toilets on set to whatever was needed, even though she's starring in a film. So multi-hyphenates and people willing to do whatever it takes to get a film made are always a director's favorite people on sets.
Yeah, I feel like you would be great at doing the 48s then, as much as you don't want to do.
Oh man, I don't know. It's a weird, like, irrational fear, I guess. I've edited a 48-hour film for someone else, but I was just like,
more pressure.
Nah, they were pretty together, and like editing's my fastest process. But it's the idea of, like, if you're the director, it's just the editor. I got to sleep while they shot it. But if you're like the writer, director, producer, and editor, you are just not going to sleep for 72 hours. Like I'm no stranger to those kind of days and deadlines and other things. It just, I don't know. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe just by talking to enough people on Reveel'd that have done it, I'll get coerced into giving it a try. My city has one here that I helped badger a film festival into starting. I really should partake at some point.
You should. It's really fun. As difficult as it is, it's very fun. It is very tiring. You're exhausted after the 2 or 3 days, but super, super fun. The other thing you kind of have to relinquish is you have to get rid of this idea that it's going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You don't.
But it's and especially in indie film, it's rarely perfect anyways. Like, this is what I try to. My whole philosophy is just go out and make things. Like, you don't have a budget, who cares? Figure out a way to make it happen. Don't sit and wait forever for the right time, the right gear, the right cast. Like, it's not going to come together. Just go do it. And the more often that you do that, the better you get at being a filmmaker. Because when you're working against obstacles, you just have to figure out a way through those obstacles. So you're right. A challenge like this is probably also a great exercise for me in that sense too.
That's great advice too, that you should just go out and do it as opposed to waiting for the perfect circumstances. That's fantastic advice for
this interview discussion is like 50% therapy for me to get me over my fear of doing a 48-hour. So when again on the topic of like this sort of short notice, I know a lot of these challenges you don't really get kind of the rules or the things that you have to include until you're there. And that's how they keep people honest about making sure that they haven't pre-written or pre-shot something. How do you, with you have no time to develop a character and everything. Like, how do you're probably getting the script as you're sitting down to like get in costume and shoot the film. How do you very quickly come up with a character and ideas to bring her to life?
I think you have to just sort of very quickly decide what the point of the character is. Like, what are they trying to, how are they trying to bring about the climax of the film, and what their role in that is. If you don't have as much time as you would normally have to go through, you know, a character's backstory, so it's really, you figure out almost the formula of what you're doing, and you figure out how you push that forward, if that makes sense. So my entire job with this film was to push the sort of, sorry, my cat is meowing. You sort of push forward what's happening with the Halloween tree, and I had to figure out, you know, how to bring my friends into it and sort of get this idea of their negative karma around the tree is their sort of hubris that will lead to the climax.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my job, is to bring that about so that they can start dying. That was where I sort of realized my job was. But also then the other core part of my character was that I need to love this little tree. So I need to start with respecting the tree so it doesn't seem so weird at first. It's a little bit off, but by the end of it, you know, I'm staring at this tree, just totally enthralled by it. So, you know, it gets weird real quick.
It's such a great little concept. I'm always amazed when people can come up with things like on the fly like that, and come up with such a coherent, well-made, funny, you know, like, and you know, it's definitely a horror vibe, but it's just a little bit whimsical as well, which I really liked. You know, it's a very, very well-made short film. And where go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, Alex is a student of horror films specifically, so to me, this was very, you know, Sam Raimi sort of Evil Dead, you know, the idea of the trees and everything. So
where I'm sitting right now in Canada, I can see Detroit out my window. I'm right on the border, and that is not far from here where they shot the Evil Dead. Big fan, big influence. Yes.
Yeah. So that was, you know, the concept to me was, it was very great and right in Alex's wheelhouse too, which I thought it was nice that he got to do an homage to this sort of iconic horror franchise. So that was kind of cool too.
Now, where did you get your start in acting? What's your sort of career path been?
So I started, I've been acting for forever. I started, you know, high school drama like everyone else, middle school drama actually too. And then I went to Boston University. I was in the theater program for a while there. I took all the acting classes I could. It's not what my degree is in, but I took as much as I could in the College of Fine Arts there. And then I just started going for the indie side of things, especially with horror films in New England. That's very, very big market, because Salem, Massachusetts is there. So it's already got a core.
Heard of it. Yeah.
So yeah, so I just sort of, like I said, I did a film with Jordan just as he was starting, and we both kind of pushed each other, because everyone he would meet would help me, everyone I would meet would help him. I could bring in other actors I met into his projects. He could bring me into other projects with new crew people who would then, it's sort of a very connected web. It's a small world in New England.
Well, it's great. It's great to have that kind of community.
It's amazing.
You need that. I don't think people often realize, because listen, there's independent film at like sort of the Miramax or A24 level where they're spending 5 to 10 million a film, and then there's the independent film where it's like, is everybody okay with peanut butter and slightly stale bread today? But we have to get we have to go into the woods and get covered in mud and blood all night and shoot this with a crew of 6 people. Having that community and just knowing that there's people you can always rely on is such a huge part of what makes any of this possible. So I'm jealous hearing about this community. And why haven't I been invited to be part of it? I can be
just come to New England.
I can be the Canadian that Canadians are polite. We're friendly. We're creative. So you went to school for acting. How much, how to say this the correct way? Was it that, did you find it valuable to have gone to school for acting, or do you find the sort of like just real world experience has been the greater teacher?
So I took very specific acting classes. So in the College of Fine Arts, it was mainly geared towards theater. Um, so that was helpful in terms of how to think about characters, and how to speak, project, everything like that when you're on stage. Some of that translates, some of it doesn't. So the real world, I think it would have been a different ballgame if I had specifically gone to film school. That would, where I do more film related things now than theater things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the practicality of being behind the camera, and again, the benefit of being close with this group of people is that I can ask to learn things, or I can, watch what's happening when I'm not on screen and whatnot. That has been crucial. That has been a hugely important part of being in front of the camera, is seeing what happens behind it. You just have a better understanding of the way the shot is framed, where you need
Mm-hmm.
to be, how you can, cheating things and whatnot. It's you learn
Well,
by doing.
so many actors, I find it's valuable to communicate with my cast, what we're framing, what lens we're on, because you when you're just staring at the camera, you don't always know if that's head to toe. You don't know if it's like close on your eyeball, like
Exactly.
just that communication, because then you also understand the range of what you can be doing in that shot. So yeah, I think being an astute observer of what's happening behind the camera and understanding that entire process definitely benefits actors in more ways than they could ever. If you just show up and say your lines and give a good performance, that's fine. But I think you become a better actor the minute you start to understand the whole process.
Yeah, I agree. And I think too, it's really great when you have a director that also understands what happens in front of the camera. I
Hmm.
think just understanding both sides of the camera helps everyone, really, truly. It helps with, communication is obviously the most important thing on a film set, bar none. So it just, everybody understanding other people's jobs, very important, in my opinion.
What do you have coming up next? What are you working on in the immediate future,
So lots and lots of
post COVID? Yeah.
because that's what I can do right now is write. I have been wanting to do a lot more comedy. I think actually comedy is more of my strong suit, and I haven't gotten to do as much of it as I used to, just because, like I said, it's a very big horror community in New England. So I would like to do a couple other genres as well. And to me, I just love comedy. I love watching comedy. I love writing comedy. So my plan is to maybe do a couple of sketches and whatnot. And if that all comes to fruition, because I have been writing, you will likely see or the names or faces of a lot of people that are actually in this film.
Well,
So
then when you make those, make sure they get put on Reveal, and then I can interview some of those
okay,
people about working with you. Yeah,
definitely.
just come full circle. Well, Jackie, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody watching Reveal, if you haven't signed up for Reveal and you're watching this interview on YouTube or Facebook or somewhere else, just go to revealmovies.com or reveal.net. Sign up. It's 100% free. It's like the other streaming services, but you don't have to pay, and you don't have to watch ads. And there's so much great stuff. You don't have to put a credit card down. There's no tricks, just a bunch of amazing, great indie content. And you can watch all of it, including Root of All Evil, which stars our guests today. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope to talk to you again sometime for a different project.
That would be awesome. I'll be here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gavin.